8:52 in the morning, and your heart is already doing that thing. You know the thing, that low, tight drumming behind your ribs that kicks in the exact moment you see the calendar notification? Stand up. 9 o'clock. 8 attendees. You haven't said a single word yet. You haven't done anything wrong yet. But somewhere between your second sip of coffee and the moment you clicked join, your brain decided, quietly, without your permission, that today was the day everyone was finally going to notice. Notice what? Doesn't matter. Your brain isn't being specific. It never is. In the next few minutes, I'm going to break down exactly why your nervous system turns a 10-minute status update into a full psychological tribunal, and the one mental shift I call the spotlight flip that mechanically lowers your heart rate before you even hit unmute. Stay with me. Oh Lord, it is good to be here with you. Welcome back to the Confident Connection Lab. Genuinely glad you're here. If you've ever stared at your own face in the Zoom preview window, thought, why do I look like that? And then spent the next 4 minutes adjusting your camera angle instead of reviewing your actual work. Hit like. It tells the algorithm we exist. It tells me you exist. Either way, it matters. Let me tell you about a Tuesday in March. Not this March, an older one, when I had a 9 o'clock stand-up with a team I genuinely liked. These were good people. Nobody was competitive in a toxic way. Nobody had an agenda. Nobody was keeping score. It was a fine meeting in a fine company, and I had absolutely nothing to be nervous about. My throat tightened at 8:45. By 8:50, I had rehearsed my update 7 times in my head, using slightly different word orders each time, as if the exact sequence of I finished the draft and I'm waiting on feedback was going to determine something critical about my professional future. I remember sitting completely still at my desk, with the kind of focused dread that should be reserved for actual emergencies, not a Zoom call where at least 3 people had their cameras off and 1 guy was definitely driving. I unmuted. I said my update, it took 9 seconds. Nobody reacted, not because it was bad, but because that's how stand-ups work. You talk, then the next person talks, someone's dog barks in the background, and then you all go back to your lives. But for the next 2 hours after that call ended, I replayed those 9 seconds on a loop, analyzing my tone, wondering if I'd sounded unsure. Wondering if they'd noticed I sounded unsure, and wondering, briefly, if my wondering was somehow visible on my face through the camera. That is the machine we are talking about today, and it has a name. Psychology calls it the spotlight effect. I call it the main character trap, because that's exactly what it is. Your brain cast itself as the lead, and now everyone in the room is watching the performance. Here's the core of it. The spotlight effect is a well-documented cognitive bias, studied extensively in the late 1990s, which leads us to dramatically overestimate how much other people notice our appearance, our errors, and our emotional state. We assume we are standing under a bright spotlight while everyone else sits in the dark with their eyes fixed on us. The reality is that everyone else is standing under their own spotlight too. Nobody has surplus attention to spend on your 9-second update. They are too busy rehearsing their own. The main character trap. Your brain cast itself as the lead, and now everyone in the room is watching the performance. And once your nervous system accepts that premise, once it commits to the idea that you are being watched and evaluated in real time, everything compounds. Your voice tightens, your thoughts fragment, and you forget what your hands are supposed to do while you're talking. The cruel irony is that trying to consciously manage all of this mid-call is precisely what makes you look less natural, not more. You can't perform naturalness, you can only stop performing. So here's the spotlight flip. It is not a mindset, it is a mechanical sequence. 3 steps you run before the call starts, not during it. Step 1, name the feeling out loud in your own voice at low volume. Not I'm nervous, that is a ladle, and labels give the feeling more authority than it deserves. Say what is actually happening in your body. My chest is tight and my thoughts are looping. Naming the physical sensation interrupts the spiral because it pulls you out of the abstract and anchors you in the specific. You cannot catastrophize and describe simultaneously. One shuts the other down. Step 2. Do a 4-7-8 breath, 1 cycle. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 7. Exhale slowly for a count of 8. That's it. This is not meditation, and it is not a wellness ritual. It is a mechanical intervention on your vagus nerve. The same nerve that governs your heart rate, your vocal tone, and your ability to think in complete sentences under mild social pressure. 1 cycle is enough to lower your baseline arousal before the call starts. You're not calming down. You're recalibrating a system that received a false alarm. Step 3. Flip the spotlight onto someone else, one specific person on the call. Before you join, pick one teammate and decide that your only job in the first 2 minutes is to notice something real about them. not a compliment. Just a genuine observation. Marcus looked exhausted last week. I wonder if that project finally wrapped. Sophia always drops something sharp in the first 5 minutes. You're no longer the subject of the meeting. You're a curious observer who happens to be in the room, and that frame shift from performer to observer is the spotlight flip. It works because it gives your brain a task that is not self-monitoring. A brain with a job to do cannot spiral. It is too busy paying attention. The 3 steps take less than 90 seconds. You can run all of them in the time it takes your Zoom client to finish loading. Name the physical sensation. 1 breath cycle. Pick 1 person to be genuinely curious about. That is the whole sequence. Here's what happens when you actually run it. You do not arrive at the meeting calm. Calm is overrated, honestly. Calm is the absence of feeling, and presence is the ability to function. Despite the feeling, the spotlight flip does not make you a different person. It makes you the same person with a slightly lower heart rate and a reason to look somewhere other than yourself. I have a question, be honest in the comments. Do you spiral more before the call starts, or after it ends, replaying everything you said? I'm a before the call person, always have been. The post-call replay is its own separate monster, and I have a lot of opinions about it. Tell me yours below. I actually read these. Now that you know how to stop the spiral before it starts, you need to know what to do when you're already inside the call and your mind goes completely blank anyway, because the spotlight flip handles the prep. But there is a different move for the freeze, the pause, the blank, the recovery. I covered that exact moment in this audio right here. Click that.